Hi everyone, welcome to another quick session. In this session, we will discuss regarding SAML, and also we will discuss uh, OpenID Connect. So the difference between SAML and OpenID Connect. So here in this particular diagram, you can see clearly this is a user. So the end user, the person is trying to access an app. So these are the apps, and service provider, the application, right, or cloud app. So SAML IDP, that is SAML identity provider. Authentication authority, we can say. For example, it could be Okta, it could be um, Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, and this is a user database where the user stores credentials, where the user credentials are stored. So now let's check the flow step by step. So as shown in the diagram, user request protected resources. User tries to access secured application, um, which is running on this service provider. So accessing a cloud app without being logged in. So that is important. So user is trying to access an app without being logged in. So user try to access a secured application which is running on this cloud on service provider. So SAP, what it does, SAP redirects user to SAML IDP. So to identity provider, which is over here, and SP sees user is not authenticated, right? Redirect user to SAML. So when user try to access this service provider, this app, and SPC service provider sees that particular user is not authenticated, it redirects to SAML IDP with a SAML authentication request. So when it redirected, it's with a SAML authentication request. So SP does not authentication. So the the key idea is here that the service provider does not authenticate user itself. So SAML identity provider authenticators. Now what SAML IDP does? SAML identity providers display a login page over here. So this is a step 1, step 2, and then step 3. So here user enters username and as well as password. So credential sent for verification. IDP sends credential to the user, step 4, to the user database. Database checks if credentials are valid. Then database verifies credentials. If valid, sends confirmation back to IDP, back to identity provider. So IDP sends SAML response. IDP creates a SAML assertion. So now once again, step 5, user user verification sends verification response. uh, if valid, sends confirmation back to IDP, right? So number 6, IDP sends SAML response to SP. So IDP creates a SAML assertion, user is authenticated, right? And includes identity info claims. Assertion is signed, sent back to service provider. So it includes identity info, right? But important point is it does not include password. Password is never sent to service provider. So SP validates the SAML response. User is now logged in. So it validates and then user is logged in. So access to protected resources is granted. So now the memory points for CISSP exam. SAML is authentication plus SSO, single sign-on. IDP authenticates, SP trust IDP. Passwords never shared with SP. User assertion XML digital signature. So SAML allows an IDP to authenticate to user and securely tell service provider that the user is trusted without sharing credential. So that is about SAML. So now let's quickly discuss the difference between OpenID Connect, which also calls OpenID OIDC. So what is the difference between SAML versus OpenID Connect? So SAML, security assertion markup language, XML based authentication, and SSO standard. It is an older standard, enterprise focused, and XML based authentication. As we have seen that identity provider authenticate user, sends SAML assertion to service provider. A key characteristics uses XML, uses browser redirects plus post. It is heavy and complex, very common in enterprise uh, single sign-on. Typical use corporate single sign-on, legacy enterprise apps, federation between different organization. So federate, it is we can say also it is a kind of federation, federated model we can also say. CISSP exam clue, um, IDP and service provider mention assertion, XML mention enterprise SSO. When we see these key points, then we can clearly understand it is related to SAML. So that was the quick wrap up regarding SAML. Now let's quickly discuss about OpenID Connect. OpenID OIDC is a modern authentication layer on top of OAuth 2.0. OAuth is for authorization, and on top of that, there is another authentication layer. So lightweight and API friendly. How it works? User authenticates, receive an ID token, JOT we call it ID token, JWT, which we can also call JOT. Receive an ID token, right? Which is JOT. So key characteristic uses JSON, JOT, REST API friendly, lightweight and fast, but for modern web and mobile apps. Typical use cases: web apps, mobile apps, cloud, SaaS platforms, social logins, new modern application, modern apps. It is commonly used. So for CISSP exam, the clue is it mentions OAuth along with OpenID 2.0. It runs on top of OAuth for authentication. OpenID is for authentication and OAuth is for authorization. And if they mention about JWT, then it is clearly The question is related to OpenID Connect. So as we discussed, it is used for modern mobile apps, and SAML is a legacy thing. So OIDC is a modern authentication protocol. So now let's quickly discuss SAML authentication and single sign-on for authentication purpose, and single sign-on OpenID is also for authentication. It is built on standalone. SAML is built on standalone, and token type is SAML assertion for SAML. For OpenID is JOT. Data format for SAML is XML. For OpenID JSON. Best for SAML is best for enterprise, and but web and mobile apps, OpenIDs were best for modern application. SAML is slightly used for complex environment. It is heavy. OpenID is, on the other hand, lightweight, older legacy, and OpenID is a modern authentication protocol. Uh, so that's it. I think we tried to cover all the essential points regarding these two protocols, and I think this information would be sufficient for the CASSP exam. Thank you so much for watching this session. If you have any feedback or question, please share in the feedback section.